Salam, salam, peace, peace. Greetings to you all. It's your brother Sheik Way L, a.k.a. Lord Abba, a.k.a. Mr. Just the Facts, Chairman Nah. I wanted to go in real quick about reparations, the ADOS movement, and the current political atmosphere that is basically leading us to a civil war. Well, let me start here. I'm reading this book right now, and it's called What We Got Wrong About Closing the Racial Wealth Gap by William Darity Jr., Derek Hamilton, Mark Paul, Alan Nadja, Ann Price, Antonio Moore, and Katarina Chiopris. I believe I'm saying that name correctly. So one of the things that I'm learning as I said on one of my videos before, that I'm going to make sure that I get all of the facts before I really go in on this particular movement. Like I said, I have a video on my channel, Black Status versus Moorish American Nationality and the issue of reparations. When I first came into the Moorish movement and I read quotes that were attributed to Prophet Noble Drew Ali, some of which said, one day the European is going to have to pay off for the work that our ancestors did in slavery and pay off in compounded interest. And we have several cases where Prophet Noble Drew Ali is using this particular reparations language. When this movement started to pick back up, my brother Hadrumi Bey was trying to put me on to it, a brother that I'm building with out of South Carolina, Islam Rashawn Vaughn Bey. I was like, I've been seeing the hashtag, but I don't know. It's like everything is a fad. It comes and goes. Banking black, all of these different fads. They come and they go. And the 99% movement, even though that wasn't an exclusive movement for us, it fizzled out. So I didn't pay it no mind. But once I start coming across the videos, the brothers on the Dagger Squad had several conversations. So I decided to click on. I'm like, what is this thing about? Plus, the brother just mentioned it to me. So I went on the first, well, I don't know if that was their first one, but it was the first one that I seen with the Dagger Squad. And they were talking about this particular topic. And I was like, okay, this is really interesting. All right. So the next one I was able to get on, and I wasn't even trying to get on. There was people in the chat saying, y'all should let Lord Abba on. Brother Lord Abba, do you want to come on? I was like, sure, if these brothers let me on, hey, they be trying to box me out of these particular ciphers, man, So they let me come on, and we had a real good conversation, really good conversation. So it led me to do more research. Some of the language by some of the people, like when I see certain posts by Tariq Nasheed, and he'll post up a video of some gangs, some Mexican gangs, talk about how much they hate our people and use that as his platform to say that these people don't care about us. Mm-hmm. Then I see him attacking Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'm like, man, every time this sister speaks, she speaks about our people. She Puerto Rican. She grew up in New York City. She grew up in that struggle. So there's an extreme element to some of the presenters of ADOS. But then the founders of it, the brother Antonio Moore and the sister Yvette Carnell, they seem more tolerant. And their thing is, look, if you Jamaican or Haitian or you're from the West, any of the West Indian islands, y'all have CARICOM. If you're Mexican, Spanish speaking, there is a platform that's designed for y'all. There are job bills that Obama created specifically for that particular group. And it is the largest growing populace in the United States of America. And I started to notice that since about 2012, there's a lot of catering to the Spanish-speaking electorate in the United States. I started to notice a lot of the commercials were this way because they're trying to covet these votes. They know which way we're voting. The blacks, they're going to vote Democratic anyway. We ain't got to worry about them. But we don't know which way to really move with the Latino base, because some of the Republican platform does appeal to some of these people because they're trying to escape Mexican cartels, et cetera, et cetera. We were starting to be phased out of the picture. One of the things that the brother Antonio Moore was breaking down, I was watching one of his videos last night, and I love that these people are giving, they're bringing the receipts. They're showing and proving, they're bringing documentation that the wealth gap between blacks and whites was widened during Obama's presidency. Under Obama's presidency, I believe he cited a number like 113 million new quote-unquote white millionaires were made. Peace, Tamara. And I'm like, and then, he's doing the numbers. So I start reading this book right here. It's called What We Got Wrong About Closing the Racial Wealth Gap. And I just want to read just briefly from the introduction. The racial wealth gap is large and shows no signs of closing. Recent data from the Survey of Income and Program Participation 2014 shows that black households hold less than 7 cents on the dollar compared to white households. The white household living near the poverty line typically has about $18,000 in wealth, while black households in similar economic straits have a median wealth near zero. This means, in turn, that many black families have a negative net worth. And they're citing their source, Hamilton. I would have to go through the bibliography to see the full name and the particular source. They're using Harvard style in-text citations here. I ought to throw that out there for us researchers that know about that type of stuff, and so that you could learn and understand it and do it yourself. So what this is saying is that, and this is something that I heard a few years back, that it was a study done between quote-unquote white women and quote-unquote black women. And the study showed that white women were averaging $141,000 a year. And our women were averaging $5. $5. This was the average per year. When you took us collectively and you took European Americans, whom are called white people on this land, collectively, and you just singled out white women and then black women, their worth was $141,000. No, excuse me, not 100. It was $41,000, and our women's worth was $5. And I believe it was Farrakhan I heard state that number. This was around 2011, 2012. So when I looked it up, I said, wait a minute, that can't be right. That somebody's exaggerating. And I looked it up, and sure enough, this was an actual fact. So like I said earlier, and I've said in my previous video, when I got into the Moorish movement, I seen this reparations argument. I seen something that other people did not just probably, I ain't going to say see, but link to as a platform by which to build off of. I thought that it was a pertinent part of how we should move a discussion forward as opposed to what has been going on recently, because in this, we are becoming more politically active. it's not just Breaking Brown with Yvette Carnell or Tone Talks on the YouTube channel. You got a bunch of people who are the brother that does the Advice show. I mean, you got these sisters, Fly Nubian Queen, and there's some people that are online who are talking about this particular topic. And I'm proud to say that Prophet Noble Drew Ali was one of the earliest people that we hear talking about reparations, repairing our people for the damage that was done. So in this book, man, this book is a myth buster. And they run through a series of myths. So the first myth is greater educational attainment or more work effort on the part of blacks will close the racial wealth gap. I want you all to pay attention to the politicians. And this started with Obama. That's when I started to pay attention with it, I should say. They asked Obama about reparations. And Barack Obama said, I don't believe in reparations. I believe in better schools, higher education, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I kind of cut the side out. I'm like, that's not going to help us, just having better schools. But what you'll notice with all quote unquote black candidates is that is and has been the answer to the reparations claim. Peace, brother Eric Ella Hutchins. The name of this book is What We Got Wrong About Closing the Racial Wealth Gap. It's a PDF. You can find it on the ADOS website. I was talking with my brother Ware L. He got recently redeployed. Shout out to my brother Ware L. Be safe out there, beloved, overseas in the Middle East. And, he was like, that's some BS. This was before all of this whole discussion. He was like, you notice they always talk about school. They never say nothing about trade schools. They never talk about electricians, plumbers, and these type of hands-on skills that we need to help build and put us in better economic financial place. And I was like, wow, I never thought about it like that. They just want us to just go learn ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, 2 quarters and a dime, and a nickel is 65 cents, and a penny is 66 cents. I'm not saying it's not useful, it's basic math. But what is it really useful for other than working at McDonald's and stuff like that? Whereas if I get electrical training, if I learn how to be a plumber or a brick mason or any skill, architecture, any skills that requires my hands and my mind, of course, then I can make a difference. I'm going to go to college for 4 years, 4 to 8 years, and I'm going to acquire student debt, which for our people, it takes so much longer for us to climb out of this student debt hole. So it's like, is it worth it? We're not just our people. You're starting to see a lot of Americans, period, drop out of college or not even go. Because many billionaires that were created in the United States of America didn't even go to college. So I've seen several documentaries on that as well. I think CNN may have done a documentary on that. So this thing about education, and they give all the breakdowns in the chart. Again, I really want y'all to go pull up this book, What We Got Wrong About Closing the Racial Wealth Gap. It is powerful. It is powerful. It forces all of us to open our eyes because, some of us like to think we're really smart and intellectual and, but when we come across information that we didn't have prior, and it puts us in this certain eye-opening space, I love that. I love it. So I have to share it. So they're going through all of the different graphs. I'm not going to read the whole book, obviously, while I'm doing this line, but they're showing that this is a myth that higher education or just getting an education alone will somehow close this racial wealth gap. So myth number 2 is The racial home ownership gap is the driver of the racial wealth gap. And they expertly break down, not just with opinion, no, with facts. They have a bunch of different citations that they're using. New York Times Magazine, 2017 article by a sociologist named Matthew Desmond, the Institute on Assets and Social Policy, like just a bunch of different, I mean, it's all sourced out. Y'all know how I like to do my research papers. So when I'm reading this, I'm like, I love this. This is great. It says, for those households who do not own a home, let me start back. It says furthermore, empirically, the evidence simply does not support the claim that the racial home ownership gap explains the racial wealth gap. Because you have people that say, and I was thinking that as well, that if we owned homes and things like that, it's just, I'm not saying that it's excluded, because it is true that if I pass a home down to my children and my family, then they can pull equity out of the home, which is something that was started by Ronald Reagan during the Reaganomics era. And some people said that wasn't a good thing. There's some debate and argument about that. I'm not here to debate and argue about that right now. But it goes on to show, it says, for those households who do not own a home, wealth levels are low for both white and black households. However, black non-homeowner households have a mere $120 in net worth, insufficient to feed a family for a week. The data indicates that while households who are not homeowners hold 31 times more wealth than black households that do not, 31 times more wealth than our people do. And for you spooked out Moors, I got to come at some of y'all Moors too, man. Some of y'all Moors are just so super spooky to me. You hear the word black when these brothers is talking. They don't know about the movement and Noble Drew Ali and this being our true designation. And some of them don't want to know because you scare them away with your zealous. Yo, some of y'all dudes is crazy, man. Y'all sisters, I just gotta be honest, man. I can't be no other way. I gotta be honest. Some of y'all it's ridiculous. Let me see. Brother Rashard Vaughn Bay says, better schooling is not synonymous with bettering a community. People can't build with that alone, and that's true, right? Because one of the things that the school is not required to do is give moral discipline. I used to shun. There was this teacher. My public school was PS 183 Queens. And she wasn't even a teacher. She was in the front office, and her name was Miss LaCondra. Miss LaCondra was from the South. And we had families that was from New York that was from the South. And Miss LaCondra put the yardstick on you. She had permission to spank certain children. But my mother, she wasn't trying to hear that. Even though my mother was from the South, she moved to New York when she was 12. So, but I understand now, like, I ain't saying we need to beat children in school, but there's no moral compass being taught in school. It doesn't have to be. ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, and that's it. So when the brother says that better schooling is not synonymous with creating a better community, is right. I know some straight up gangsters, some straight up and down gangsters who are super smart. They are very book smart, but they in them streets. So, and I believe that this is a part of the reason why we don't have enough. You ask a brother, you want to start a business, we're going to give you $400K, what's owed to your family due to reparations, or you want to stay hustling. They're going to choose the $400K, start a family business, pass wealth, generational wealth. Of course, they're going to choose that. Put the question out there. I bet you that's what comes back. Okay, myth number 3. Buying and banking black will close the racial wealth gap. Again, get this book. They are busting up this myth that if we bank black, quote unquote, that it somehow helps. This was the wave last year. take all your money out of the banks and put my problem, my critique of that was this. The banking system, whether it's black owned, white owned, Chinese owned, whoever owns the bank, if it's the American system, it's still that same particular system. I advocate, of course, I'm Islamic, so I'm going to advocate for Islamic financing, whereas we're giving loans with no interest. Pay us back what we gave you, and if you feel fit to give us a commission for our services, then that's fine. But basically, just pay us back what we gave you. That's what the Jews do, and that's part of Islamic financing. And it is becoming one of the most popular financial models in the world. And it's something for our people to look at and for us to get off of this divisive lie that Islam enslaved our people. It's a lie. But anyway, that's another debate. So they're giving the whole breakdown. Let me see. Let me read to this. Let me see. No, I'm gonna skip that part. I just want to kind of get through this and get through my other topics. Okay, myth number 4. Black people saving more will close the racial wealth gap. Now, one of the surprising things about this particular portion of the book, where it's myth number 4, black people saving more will close the racial wealth gap, was that they were able to show that we actually did better at saving than our European American or white counterparts. So that part kind of shocked me. However, it was still so disparaging that alone, even coupled with all of the prior myths that I just read, would not close the racial wealth gap. And I'm still digging into this stuff. It's new homework for me, so I'm excited about anything that could get me excited anymore. So myth number 5 is greater financial literacy will close the racial wealth gap. And I believe that, I gotta be honest, that this was a shot at the Boyce Watkins and the Claude Andersons of the world. That's my opinion, because they talk about these financial gurus, et cetera, but they're doing their numbers, right? And they're doing their research and they're crunching their numbers, I meant to say. And they're showing and proving that these things do not add up to what's needed to close the wealth gap so that we can stop living from paycheck to paycheck. There's people that's doing community work that's getting pennies, man. And it's like, why don't we have it set up to where as we can recognize? See, this is true socialism. And I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna get to the socialism part. Let me be easy on that. Myth number 6: entrepreneurship will close the racial wealth gap. This was the last myth. I didn't get too deep. No, that wasn't the last one. So what they're basically breaking down is that just because we're business owners, that doesn't close the overall racial wealth gap. And it's like everything that they're saying here are things that I contemplated when I used to do my own breakdowns of these reparations. For instance, I grew up in Far Rockaway, Queens, New York. Shout out to my projects, Hamels. I always got to shout my hood out. Now, you got, let's take on that peninsula. You got Hamels projects. You got Edgemere projects. You got Redfern projects. You got the 40s projects. You got Ocean Village. Most of these projects got different names now. In between that, you got little houses from Beach 60th to Beach 69th, I believe. We call it the 60s. So we got all of these people in Far Rockaway, Queens. I'm just using my hometown as an example. Even if we owned all of the stores, there would still be no way to employ everybody. There's no real system to help us close the wealth gap. So this is where, when I look at the brother Antonio Moore, when he was attacking, what's his name? Jay Morrison and the Tulsa Real Estate Fund, I wasn't feeling that, because I'm like, that brother and Jay Morrison's math was on point, and the brother Tones wasn't. We have to be honest. So it's like now we have people that know investing. So let's just say we get reparations, $400K for every adult American descendant of enslaved people on this land. Every American descendant of slavery. Now we got people with the knowledge. So now we're not just starting a business. We're not just running a store. We're running financial institutions. We're running investment firms. So now, whereas everybody might not be able to work, we have a way to whereas people now know how to make their money work for them. And this is what reparations is about and what it should be, because this is how other communities are doing their thing. So let me get to myth number 7. Emulating successful minorities will close the racial wealth gap. Again, this is one of the points that I used to say. Oprah is a successful billionaire. If you break the numbers down, I believe it's like 23 million of our women and 20 million of our men. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that's the number. All 23 million of our women can't be Oprah. Can you imagine 23 million women with a talk show? Like, it's just improbable. I'm not going to say it's impossible. Anything and everything is possible, but it's just improbable. And it would be redundant. It would be no need for 23 million Oprahs. So trying to come up, everybody can't ball like Mike. It's like we got to be honest, everybody, and put out fly sneakers like Mike. It's just, we have to start being honest with ourselves. Everybody can't be an oil baron or what's the word? Tech genius. So emulating people or striving to emulate real estate gurus, et cetera, et cetera. This is not going to close the racial wealth gap. Again, let me be clear, and this report is being clear. It's not telling you not to follow your pursuit, because that may be your pursuit, but we all can't go a certain way. Everybody's not built to do a certain thing. So it's like, well, how do we close this racial wealth gap? We're still poor as a people at the end of the day. And what I learned is that a lot of our people that do have a little bit of money, they're against reparations. And then you got the people that come from the islands, the Caribbean islands. I'm going to fall back on the book for now. I've read enough of the myths. But again, y'all read this particular book. Let me call the title out again. The name of the book is called What We Got Wrong About Closing the Racial Wealth Gap. And it is by, again, William Darity Jr., Derek Hamilton, Mark Paul, Alan Nadja, Annie Price, Antonio Moore, and Katarina Chiopris, if I'm saying that correctly. What We Got Wrong About Closing the Racial Wealth Gap. So one of the things that I was able to really link in with, number one, we hit on so many points. Let me start there. They are now starting to question this term black, because black is a broad term. If you pull up Federal Directive 15 right now, it's going to give you a breakdown of black. And it's going to talk about descendants of any of the black racial groups in Africa. The problem is you got people that come over here and they take advantage of programs that's designed for us. The crazy thing is most of us can't even access those programs. For some reason or another, we're blocked out. So you get people that come over and they have access to it. And so the racial wealth gap amongst Nigerian Americans is different than the racial wealth gap of just regular black Americans. Yo, peace, my man Shah King in the building. My dude Bugs, he said, my son Sharp, stay focused, hard-hitting hammers up, Far Rock America. You already know. Always shouting my hood out, always. So it's like, how do we get to the point where this is not an issue no more? And there's only one way to get to that point, and that's through reparations, period. And the people whom are due reparations are American descendants of slavery. Like, we have to be honest. We are the people that are due reparations. Now, you have some people that say, well, we suffered, my family came from the islands and they suffered through Jim Crowism. That's understandable. I'm not saying that's a separate issue. That's a legitimate issue. What we're saying is we suffered way before that. And the things that we suffered psychologically it's hard to really put into words, man. The things that we suffered during that time, and we're still suffering as a people from what was done to us during that time, and then being boxed out of jobs and government redlining, redistricting political maps. Like, we've been a victim of too much of this stuff. And that's one of the next points I want to get to, the political atmosphere right now, people. There was a politician, I forget his name, and I'm kind of slowly but surely getting back into my rhythm on everything. So I don't take my notes like I used to when I used to do my shows. I would have a bunch of notes stacked up next to me. But he said, if Trump gets impeached, it should be a civil war. He told people to buy guns. And we know which people that he's talking about. This is one of the things that I've been contemplating. You know, I'm still a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America. I have my issues. I will not air those grievances out publicly. I will not. We need broader inclusion, which is one of the reasons why I founded the Moorish Society, so that we can bring people into, because some people are really into this Moorish identity, but they don't want to deal with the politics or even the confusion that's brought on by certain elements, not the institution itself. And it gives us a chance to make moves a certain type of way that some of the elders are simply not ready to make. And one of those moves is politically, to be heavily politically active. In April, I'm going to do a presentation on this whole ADOS movement and the Moorish element of it, because people need to hear our side of the story as well. They need to know that we're not a fluke, that we're not these people that's squatting in homes and telling people that they don't need to drive with driver's licenses. People need to know that, and they don't, because that part of the movement is not dying. So we need to make sure that, number one, we're becoming politically active. Like, I come from the streets, I come from the hood, and I think I have a way to get to the streets and get them politically active, because success leaves clues. Our lessons teach us that the master walks a certain type of way, and that his footprints are clearly cut on every span of ground that he treads upon. So if you're looking, you're going to see the footprints of all of the masters that walked before us. And that's what I'm doing right now. And in the way that Prophet Noble Drew Ali synthesized elements that were popular at that time, this is one of the things that we want to do with the Moorish Society. Synthesize the things that's popular now. Islam, brother, KLNDL. Islam, my brother Shah King said, be on point, bro. People don't like people that are too smart. They hate and like to silence them. Yo, that's right, bro. I already know. But we in a different phase right now. I put that in one of my rhymes. I said, how it go? It's been a while since I spit this one. I said something to the effect of, I'm El Hajj at the Autobahn, flanked by 2 shooters. Get your hands out my pocket, cook them with skyrockets. Wait, what I said? Get your hands out my pocket, hit them with skyrockets, cook them like Hot Pockets. I'll microwave the braid. Like, we just in a different time right now. So we warriors. We're not. I ain't saying our people wasn't scared then, but it was a little element of fear that was still there. Now, man, listen, we ain't trying to hear none of that. So it's like people waking up. People are waking up, and it's too many voices. So silencing one will do nothing right now. Silencing one will do nothing right now. Peace, God, brother Ali Dawood L. So these Europeans are starting to call for a civil war. Something is going to happen to Donald Trump. I believe that he's going to get impeached and removed from office. I believe that's what the groundwork is being laid for. They don't want to march a president out of the Oval Office in handcuffs. The SDNY, the Southern District of New York, they want to. They like, I'm following this thing carefully. The Islam brother Gray L, no doubt, brother Shaquin. So the Southern District of New York don't play. That's the same FBI group that bagged 6ix9ine and every high-profile federal case in New York. The Southern District of New York don't play. They want to go in the White House and put handcuffs on Trump. Mueller and them is like, nah, we can't do that. And there's people saying that would make us look weak to the world. And this is why they don't want to do it that way. So they're going to go the impeachment route. That report is going to drop soon. And those of us that are in the South, we got to start linking up. We got to start linking up. One of us having, like I was speaking about the racial wealth gap, one of us having a legal firearm, but one of us is just over here somewhere. It's not the same as us being organized just in case. I'm gonna share a quick story with y'all. My brother KLNDL says, if they get him now, though, Pence will pardon him. I believe, brother Alindiel, I believe that this is my theory. I believe that Pence has something to do with that Russia thing as well. So I believe that when Trump goes, Pence is going to go also. I really, really believe that. And we know the second in line to the presidency is Nancy Pelosi. Because remember, that sister was going to take, what was her name? Oh, I can't think of her name right now. That sister was going to be the Speaker of the House. And all of a sudden, she backed down. And they all supported Pelosi. Even the sister Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, why are they backing down? And then I'm watching the news. I'm watching the pundits. I'm listening. I'm putting these little pieces to the puzzle together. I'm like, you wouldn't want a really inexperienced president. A politically inexperienced president. So Pelosi would be, I'm not feeling Pelosi at all. So I don't want nobody to think that I'm not feeling that chick at all. But in a sense, it makes sense that she would be third in line to the presidency and that maybe there's some internal thing going on that they know that Trump and Pence is going to get up out of office and she's going to be the president over the next 2 years. That's my theory. So, but what I was saying about us needing to organize, we got to make sure. Yeah, Marcia Fudge, honest. There was another sister too that was up. There's a sister Fudge and there was one more sister as well. Honest, brother Gray L. So, yeah, so we got to like really start coming together, man. We got to start coordinating amongst ourselves. Our people are, I came up with this analogy, the crab in the barrel analogy. I ain't going to be on here too much longer. But I'm going to get back to the political scene as well, too. And we know about the crab in the barrel analogy. You trying to climb up. Another crab is trying to climb up and he clamps on. He's not intentionally doing it. But in our case, we're intentionally doing it. But then you have the smart guys, right? The smart guys. I call them lobsters in the crab barrel because they not climbing out of nowhere. Their bottom, the way they're designed, they don't get up the way the crab can on the dry land. So they clamp on and they just hold you down because they can't move. And it ain't like the crab going to drag them up anywhere. So you got the smart guys that are the lobsters in the crab barrel. And they're not taking the people anywhere. And this is becoming very problematic. And I'm watching it. It doesn't matter what movement come out, it's going to be attacked. It's going to be attacked. Like Kamala Harris and Cory Booker. Soon as they announced, I did a post saying I'm not feeling them. And this wasn't an attack on them. I knew Cory Booker's record. I was a fan of Cory Booker, a political fan of Cory Booker. I watched his documentary. I thought that he stood on very solid ground as a political activist for our people and the politician. But then the damning news came out that he was in fact a corporate Democrat, that they was paying him money under the table so that he could vote on certain corporate policies. And these people cannot be trusted because they're going to put the corporate interest above yours anytime. You know why? Because you can only give them $5, $10, $100, maybe $1,000. These corporations, they could just keep sliding money up under the table. And that's just how this thing works. And we got to start thinking that way now. We got people that are entertainers now, rappers, football players, basketball players, millionaires, multi-millionaires, singers, etc., etc. So now it's time for us to put a political plan together so that we're not just saying we want reparations, but that we are becoming congressmen and senators and mayors and aldermen and city councilmen. This is not out of the realm of possibility for us. Because, some of us, we come up in the streets and we think, that's for the, nah, man, I'm not thinking that way. I'm not thinking that way at all. Forget that. We've been down so long. Who else would operate at the top better than someone that has already been at the bottom? See, and our beloved Barack Obama, right? In essence, Obama is not one of us. He's not. He's not an ADOS. He's not an American descendant of slavery, or the enslavement of our people. And it's just a fact. His mother was a European and his father was was Kenyan. His experience, he has no. What did Jesse Jackson say on the hot mic? Jesse Jackson said, I don't like this guy. He's always talking down to black people. I want to cut his nuts off. This is what Jesse said. And now I'm starting to see all these videos. There was an article published in the Atlantic last week. I forget the publisher's name, but it's on my wall. And he says, why is Obama always scolding black boys? And I'm like, this is interesting. So now this whole thing is starting to come together. And I'm looking at all of these people differently. The Obamas. I mean, I've been knew about the Cory Booker, the Kamala Harrises. Just because they're a quote-unquote black politician doesn't mean that they have our best interest at heart. I was rooting for Bernie. I was making posts saying that I'm voting for Bernie. I'm starting to pull back now because Bernie is talking about he don't want to give us, he's not for the reparations thing. If you're not for reparations, you don't get my vote. But the problem now is, and hear me out, you got politicians that are savvy enough to say, sure, I'll give y'all black people reparations. Give me your vote. Then they get in and say, I'm finding this thing problematic. This is why one of us has to step up and become the politician that we need in the White House, that we need in the Senate, that we need in the Congress. This is not out of the realm of possibilities for us. And this was one of the things that Noble Drew Ali was demonstrating to us when we put Oscar DePriest into the seat of Congress for the state of Illinois. Like, come on, people. We're so, I was telling the brothers on the panel discussion, Brother Garfield was questioning me. It was like, how do we, I'm like, look, man, we intelligent. We not stupid people. I was like, look at the argument that these GOP people are making. They're not smarter than us. They're just not. They're not smarter than us, man. I'm telling you, these people may be more educated than us. And so far as they probably could still do an algebraic equation, because they, you know, maybe a few years removed from school. But when it comes to crafting policies and equity, they're not. I just don't think they're smarter than us. I really don't. I just don't. So now you have the Candace Owens, and I believe that's going to be, hear me out, I'm making a bold prediction here, people. I believe the next Republican play is going to get one of these, man, I don't want to use no racially terms like coon and shine and stuff like that. But it was this dude, wait, hold on. It was this dude that was debating with Roland Martin. He had a shaved head and it was shined. And he looked like that was one of the names for our people that they would call us, a shine. And he was arguing against reparations. This dude was on Fox News arguing with Roland Martin saying, could you imagine how white people would feel if you just gave black people a bunch of money? It would stir up confusion and chaos. I'm like, yo, what this graham cracker? Excuse me, y'all. Excuse me. But it upset me listening to this guy. But he wasn't ADOS. His family were from the Caribbean, came over here, made it, put him through law school or whatever it was. And of course he doesn't feel that way. Of course he doesn't, because he's already living a good life. He's on Fox News. And Roland Martin is telling him, read this book, read that book, Martin Luther King's book. I think it's called Where Do We Go From Here, which I'm going to download on Audible and I'm going to be listening to while I'm at work. Like, now it's time for us to start educating ourselves. Let me see. Let me go through some of these comments real quick. Brother Eric Illa Hutchins says, this is why I wasn't about voting, brother. It wasn't the process, but the system and the candidates. That's understandable. My thing is just take a part in the democracy, man. Because then you have the right to say, I voted for you the last time and you didn't do what you said. You will not get my vote the next time. And it's as simple as that with me. But you got to remember this also, brother. Politics is local, man. We get caught up on a general election, but it's the county commissioner, the sheriff, the mayor, the alderman, the ombudsman. These are people that directly control the policies in your particular municipality. So I'm going to always urge people to vote because these are the people that's crafting legislation for where you live at. Okay, my brother Shaking says, why is Trump president getting away with murder? That cracker is the worst. Hey, let me tell you, y'all see him on here, Shaking. That's my dude from the way I grew up at. I call him Bugs. Bugs, let me tell you this, bro. Yeah, Trump is doing some crazy stuff. And I've been repeating this line often. I learned more from Donald Trump's presidency than I've learned from Barack Obama. But Obama was scared to hire black people, quote unquote black people. He passed up on federal judges and elected European American white judges who were less qualified than the sisters. He got pushed back and criticized because he didn't want to give the appearance that he was doing. Man, Trump got in there and was like, you a white supremacist? Oh, my man. Come on, bro. Come up in here. What? You supported Nazism and Heil Hitler? Come on, bro. You got a cabinet position. Like, so why can't we become the president and start getting some of our Black Panther brothers and our, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, let's be honest, man. Of course, we Muslims, so we going to move in the spirit of righteousness. I'm just using that as an example to say, I've learned more from Trump than I've learned from Obama, man. He pushed the boundaries, bro. Real talk. So, yeah, I'm president. We gonna be up in that piece. And it's really gonna be barbecues on the front lawn. What is that, the Rose Garden? We gonna get the speakers out there. Yo, Bugs, we gonna get Jaime to come out there and DJ. We getting it in. I ain't playing. We dead serious having a barbecue in the Rose Garden. So, but I'm being honest too. I'm being funny, but I'm being honest. So, because this is where we come from. And we not going to let these people try to change that aspect of us because we got to try to give this appearance. And nah, man, we not doing that. And I got to say, and y'all might take this wrong, I respect Trump, man. Yeah, he a criminal, he wrong, he racist. But look at what he's doing. He's stretching the limits of the office. He's giving us a blueprint on what to do. So now if one of us get elected, I'm signing an executive order to give $12.2 trillion to American descendants of slavery. And this is how we got to start thinking. We can't just be here giving commentary and talking numbers. We got to step up and run for office. And that's my message to the brother Tone, if he ever sees this, and his sister Yvette Carnell. And I ran into a brother today out here that knows the sister. And she used to stay out here in my part of Georgia. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Like, we had a little chop it up in Trader Joe's. So, yeah, that's basically what it is, people. Well, let me speak for myself. I'm with the ADOS movement. I hope that there's a lot of beef going on with our people, man. We just the beefy people. It is what it is. And it's crazy. I used to think that it was this way just because we grew up. I was reading in my research for Moorish history, and it was talking about how the Moors came from Arabia under this Malik Yafrik, and where we get the name Africa from. And it says, in the piece, this author, his name was Florian, a Frenchman. He spoke about how we were always separated. He was like, either way, the Moors are always like separated. This is why I respect Islam. Islam, we were never all united in Africa, ever. But Islam was the only thing that brought many of us together under one banner and sharing. Yeah, the wars and all of that crazy stuff still went on, but we can get it right now. We can get it right now. And I believe that it is time for us to step up and do something. We ain't got to dwell at the bottom no more. We could be politicians. And those of us that can't be politicians for whatever reason, well, we could support the politician. We can still advocate and say, you know what, man, when I get my paycheck next week, I'm sending $25 to that brother or that sister's campaign, even if they don't look like us. And we don't want to also get too caught up in identity politics, because there may be people that will come in and not look like us and still fight just as hard as we will for our rights, and particularly even reparations. So we want to be careful with that too. Noble Drew Ali made a call. He put a call out to all true American citizens to help him in this work that he was doing back in the 1920s. And he said it in writing. The Europeans are helping me. Why not you? The Negro problem is your problem. And this is what's going on. It's the Negro problem. This one going at this one going at that. Y'all know I'm one of the most hated dudes in the conscious community. You got cats that don't even want to speak to me about nothing. I guess they feel I'm going to convince them of my argument. I just want to build, and that's it. So with that said, you know, what time is it? I said I wasn't going to be on here too long. Yeah, I got to start getting myself together for tomorrow. Work. I got to work. But I wanted to come on here and I wanted to go in a little bit and touch on ADOS, touch on reparations. Again, for those of you that came in late, I was reading from this book entitled What We Got Wrong About Closing the Racial Wealth Gap. Pull it up online on PDF. What We Got Wrong About Closing the Racial Wealth Gap. You can also find it on the official ADOS website. There's a link to the PDF. And again, I'll leave y'all with my mantra. Don't fight the power, become the power. And then you'll have the power to make a change. And with that, I say peace.